The original Quake is an awesome first-person shooter originally released in 1996 and is still being played by fans today. Even now, it's still a unique game due to its dark fantasy and Lovecraftian aesthetic. The core gameplay will feel familiar if you've played any of the classic Doom games, but Quake's real-time 3D rendering was a breakthrough for the gaming industry. The sequel, Quake II, was released in 1997 and is basically unrelated to the original game, and was the first entry to render the series inconsistent. Gone are the Lovecraft and dark fantasy influences in favor of a more sci-fi theme. It was a complete departure in tone and atmosphere compared to the first game. Still, the gameplay was solid and it became a huge hit. As far as I can tell, Quake II was better known for its multiplayer than single-player. Multiplayer is what the Quake series is known for, and if it wasn't because of Quake II, it was definitely because of Quake III. Developed by id Software and published by Activision, Quake III Arena was released for PC in December 1999. Quake III is strictly a multiplayer-focused game. You can set up multiplayer matches against bots if you want to play solo, but that's as far as the single-player goes. The expansion, Team Arena, was released for PC in December 2000, and it introduced several new team-based modes among other things. Quake III Gold is the complete package, and that's what I played for this review. Throughout this video, you'll see clips of me playing on both vanilla and Dreamcast maps, thanks to the Dreamcast map pack. I'll also be covering the Challenge ProMode Arena mod, which is designed for serious competitive play, and contains all kinds of changes while managing to keep the core gameplay intact. So let's take a look at Quake III and see how it holds up after all these years. Now, before really getting into this review, I just want to say that I'm well aware of Quake Live. It's an enhanced version of Quake 3, I own it on Steam, and I actually played it back when it was still a browser game. I decided to review that separately if and when I ever get around to it. And I never played the original Quake 3, so I figured that's what I'll play for this review, plus I was able to check out some classic mods. I primarily played Quake 3 Arena and Team Arena using the Spearmint engine. Spearmint is directly based on IO Quake 3, which is an improved engine based on the Quake 3 source code. It contains bug fixes, new features, and enables the game to run easily on modern systems, among other improvements. Spearmint contains 4-player split-screen support, gamepad support, improved bot AI, and my favorite feature, I'll quote the website, aspect-correct widescreen FOV and HUD. The original game was designed for the 4:3 aspect ratio, but these newer engines obviously allow it to run in widescreen. IO Quake 3 does not include any field of view fixes or adjusted weapon placements. For example, when playing in widescreen, the weapons you're holding are almost off the screen, and even if you adjust the FOV using the command, it still doesn't look right. Plus, the HUD is stretched, and it just annoys me that I can't fix it with a few commands or tweaks. I want to be clear that it's not the game's fault or the engine's fault, it's just the way it is. Regardless, Spearmint solves this problem, and I love it. However, the Spearmint website claims the engine doesn't support mods, or at least specific ones, although I found out that it does support some. But I couldn't get the Challenge ProMode Arena mod, which I will now abbreviate as CPMA, to load with it, so I had to play the mod using the IO Quake 3 engine. Now, I did see multiplayer sessions to join in IO Quake 3, but not in Spearmint. That doesn't really matter to me, but if you want to play the multiplayer, that's something to consider. You can also just play Quake Live, which has an active multiplayer scene from what I understand. Everything I downloaded and installed will be provided in the description below, including additional links to mods that I couldn't review for various reasons. I was going to cover Reaction Quake 3, a popular mod based on the Action Quake 2 mod for Quake 2, but I found the bots to be way too incompetent. The creators were turning this into a standalone game, but the last news I could find on that dates back to 2015. I have no idea what the status is, and the Reaction Quake 3 website is something else now. Also, I found it very hard to find a download of this mod, but a very nice user at GOG provided a site that contains all of the files needed. I was also going to cover Rocket Arena 3, but couldn't get a match started. You'll also see links to the high-quality Quake mod. I was very interested in this at first because I thought it would fix the aspect ratio and weapon placement issues in IO Quake 3. It fixes the stretched HUD and FOV, but not the weapon placement. If it's supposed to, then I didn't get it working right, I guess. But it's still a great mod and does include high-quality assets. It also works well with IO Quake 3 and Spearmint.
One frag left.
Quake 3 and its expansion do give you a decent amount of options to customize your experience, but nowhere near the amount of control Unreal Tournament gives you. Regardless, you can name your character and choose a character model. Some are based on Quake characters, and then I saw the Doom Guy model, and well, there was really no need to keep looking. But there's actually a good variety of character and creature models to choose from. It doesn't matter which one you choose because it doesn't really affect the gameplay. Other than that, you can change your crosshair, basic audio and video options, and then it's time to jump into the actual gameplay because that's what Quake 3 is all about. If you decide to play solo, you do get to choose the bots before starting a match, and no, you can't really customize them, but you can set their skill level. Now, the CPMA mod gives you a bunch of new options to tweak, and I think many of the new options are provided to increase the performance, frame rate, and stuff like that for serious competitive play. But if you're like me, you can also tweak things because you just like the way it looks. CPMA allows you to adjust your character model's color, you can decide how names are displayed, you can change the announcer voice to a female variant, there's different HUD options, and there's even additional visual options. Unfortunately, all of the enemy bots are always colored green and they all look the same no matter what character model you choose, and you can't change this. If you can, I haven't figured it out. I assume the green is to make them stand out more because they're really meant for practice. This mod is clearly focused on the competitive aspect of the game, and in some ways the mod strips out the charm and soul of what makes this a Quake game. By that I mean aesthetics. But I can understand why. To be good, you need to aim accurately and know how to navigate the maps, visibility, and movement, two things the CPMA mod really focuses on. The standard bot AI, or at least what's on offer in Spearmint, is actually quite good, but borders on cheap the higher the bot's skill level. Their reaction times can become quite ridiculous to a casual player like me. Some say practicing against bots is never efficient, others say it's good practice, but if you're not going to play the multiplayer, then who cares? Regardless, bots always have exploits and weaknesses, and I notice them fall off ledges a lot in maps with a lot of jump pads and platforms. But overall, they get the job done and make for competent allies and foes. The CPMA mod allows you to raise the bot's skill level way past normal levels. There's only a handful of vanilla skill levels, but CPMA allows you to raise the level to 100. The bots seem to jump around a lot more in this mod, which I believe does represent how real players move around. There's a lot of jumping, flying through the air, and circle strafing. It can be very intense.
You are tied for the lead.
If you've played Doom or the original Quake, you'll feel right at home. Quake III is a fast-paced, action-packed shooter, and movement is very important. You can run, jump, and crouch, all normal shit for a game like this, but to actually excel at the game, you'll need to master strafing, speed, and air control. You'll need to memorize map layouts and learn how to perform rocket jumps and strafe jumps. I don't mean just knowing how to do them, I mean being able to do them like a reflex to give yourself an advantage during combat. Any schmuck can fire a rocket at their feet while in midair to give themselves a boost, but actually using this move to access hard-to-reach areas and rapidly navigate around the maps like you're the Flash is the key to fully mastering the game, or at least to compete against series veterans from the videos I've seen. Quake III developed a crazy competitive multiplayer scene, and people still compete to this day. Apparently the CPMA mod has become the standard competitive mod for Quake III. The mod makes several noticeable changes, like you don't bob up and down when you move, your weapons don't sway, but that can be enabled, and I think movement speed was altered. For example, swimming underwater feels much faster here. I believe the mod makes changes to actual physics of the game, which you may notice immediately if you've played the original game religiously. The mod also allows you to view your stats at the end of a match, like weapon accuracy, hits, kills, deaths, suicide, and even efficiency.
Tier 2. Skilled.
Quake III doesn't really include a story. Instead, if you play through the single-player mode, you'll battle through 7 tiers. All of the tiers consist of typical deathmatch matches against bots. Each tier is introduced by a brief cutscene, but there's no real narrative or characters to care about. The Team Arena expansion doesn't even include tiers. The single-player has you going from map to map competing against bots in the new game modes. You can earn medals during a match for specific achievements like kill streaks or kill streaks with specific weapons, not getting killed at all, and even accuracy. The real meat of the game is the multiplayer, but you can set up skirmishes against bots. Before starting the match, you can select the game type, how many players are bots, who is on what team, if it's a team-based game type, the time limit, goal limits, all typical stuff for a multiplayer game. The base game includes what would now be considered very basic game types. There's free-for-all, which is just deathmatch. You've also got team deathmatch, capture the flag, and tournament. In team deathmatch, the goal is for your team to score more kills than the opposing team. In capture the flag, you want to bring the enemy team's flag back to your base to score a point. The team with the highest score at the end wins. Tournament is like a duel where you face off against one opponent at a time. Other players or bots will spectate while they wait their turn to face the winner. In addition to these, Team Arena includes all new team-based game types. One flag capture the flag involves 2 teams competing for one flag located at the center of the map. You need to bring it to the enemy team's base to score a point. Overload requires you to destroy the enemy team's skull obelisk to score a point. The skull will slowly regenerate over time when not being attacked. Harvester is my favorite new game type. The objective here is to kill enemies to generate skulls in the center of the map. You then need to collect the enemy-colored skulls and bring them to the enemy base to score points. How many skulls you're carrying determines how many points you will score. The CPMA mod includes several new game types. Huni mode, which I believe is named after the creator, is loosely based on tennis. During the warm-up, you choose a spawn point, and if you don't, one will be randomly generated for you. Apparently some spawn points give players advantages, and others are less desirable. And the scoring system works just like tennis. I'll be honest, it's not my favorite mode, and it's a 1 vs 1 match, so it's basically a duel with a tennis scoring system. Freeze tag is probably my favorite game type introduced here. The goal is to freeze every player on the other team. You don't kill them, they're actually frozen. If you're frozen, you can spectate the match until you're defrosted. To defrost a teammate, you must stand close to him and move around a little bit for a brief time. Another new game type is Capture Strike, which is a variant of Capture the Flag. Teams take turns on offense and defense, which means the match plays out in rounds, and you score a point by capturing the flag and bringing it back to your base if you're on offense. But the round will end if the defense completely annihilates the other team, because if you die you don't respawn until the next round. The final game type I was able to play is called Not Team Fortress. I had no idea what was going on at first, maybe because I could never get into Team Fortress, but it's definitely a variant of Capture the Flag, and I learned that players are separated into 4 classes, which needs to be customized by the server administrator. I could not play the Clan Arena game type because the mod doesn't come with maps for it, apparently. From what I understand, it's a team-based mode where you start with every weapon and must kill every player on the opposing team. Evidently, this game type pays homage to the Rocket Arena mod. The arsenal in Quake III is of your typical Quake variety. You always start with a machine gun and gauntlet. The gauntlet is a melee weapon. You can also acquire a shotgun, plasma gun, grenade launcher, rocket launcher, lightning gun, railgun, and the BFG 10K. My favorite weapons are the plasma gun and railgun. I just love the way the plasma gun feels, and the railgun can kill enemies instantly if they're not wearing armor. It also fires straight, so you really need to have a good aim at high speeds. The Team Arena expansion adds the chain gun, nail gun, and proximity launcher. All of the weapons definitely feel familiar, but they have their moments, and none of them seem useless. The BFG 10K, rocket launcher, and railgun are easily the deadliest weapons in the game, and I think if you can master the use of these, you can really decimate the competition. Quake III Arena comes with a variety of maps, and I actually enjoy a good majority of them. The base maps are small and confined, so matches can be very hectic and intense. The maps introduced in Team Arena are much larger to support the new game types, and honestly, I don't really care for most of them. I found myself running around looking for enemies and objectives more than actually engaging in combat. Many of the maps have a sci-fi feel, some even resemble locations from the Doom series. The maps are littered with skull structures, demonic imagery, fire and lava, tech areas, and some maps are set in what looks like outer space. Now, when it comes to the CPMA maps, there is no universal theme, but they are all really well designed. Now, whether it's vanilla or CPMA maps, there's no shortage of jump pads, ramps, traps, portals that warp you to different areas of the map, health, armor, and weapon pickups, and even power-ups that last for a limited time. If you die with the power-up active, you'll drop it. The haste or boost power-up increases your movement and firing speeds. Regeneration will enable your health to regenerate until it hits 200 points. The battle suit makes it impossible for you to be harmed by splash damage. Invisibility is obvious, and the quad damage is a classic that amplifies your weapon damage, perfect for turning enemies into gibs with one shot. You can also collect items that you can hold onto and use whenever you want, like the personal teleporter and medkit. The teleporter will send you to a random spawn point, and the medkit restores your health. Now, Team Arena adds a whole new roster of power-ups split into 2 categories, power-ups and team power-ups, otherwise known as runes. The regular power-ups include the Kamikaze, which kills the player and damages everyone in the blast radius, and the Invulnerability Shield, which will immobilize you but makes you immune to damage, and it will also reflect projectiles. Runes are always placed around your base, and once acquired, they last until you die. Scout doubles your movement and firing speed. The Doubler doubles the amount of damage you can do. Guard increases your health and armor to 200 points, and it also provides you with health regeneration. Finally, there's the Ammo Regen rune, which regenerates your ammunition. The visuals definitely look dated, but the map layouts, architecture, and texture work are well done. The game looks fantastic in widescreen, especially with the correct HUD and aspect ratio, but even so, there's plenty of little things that still hold up or are still entertaining. Turning enemies into gibs is fun, the death animations are satisfying, and Quake 3 includes muzzle flashes. For some reason they were missing in Quake 2, but they're present in Quake 3, and just make the combat ever so satisfying. The default HUD in general seems pretty large, or at least the text and numbers, and the Team Arena HUD is just obnoxiously big in my opinion. It's like intrusive. The CPMA mod includes a new HUD, and you can even toggle aspects of it on and off, and while it too is a bit on the large side, it is a bit more pleasing on the eyes. On the audio side, the weapons sound powerful, characters rarely speak but occasionally shout things during gameplay in addition to basic grunts and moans. Team Arena includes a bit more dialogue, but the only voice work you'll hear often is the announcer who normally congratulates you when you earn a medal, among other minor things. As for the music, I know there's some rock and electronic tracks, but nothing really stood out to me, at least not like the Quake II soundtrack did. On the technical side, the game ran fine using both Spearmint and IO Quake 3. I experienced no frame rate dips, crashes, or serious glitches of any kind. Quake 3 is a multiplayer game, plain and simple. It's a multiplayer game with a very competitive multiplayer scene. However, it does offer a decent single player thanks to competent bots, but who cares about that, right? I do. I'll admit I had fun with Quake 3, but I didn't think Team Arena was all that great. The new game types were okay, but I didn't really care for the new maps. I preferred the tight, confined maps found in the base game. As for the CPMA mod, I think I'm just indifferent towards it. I'm not going to say it's bad because it's not, but I didn't love it, and that's probably because I played against bots. The mod is clearly designed for competitive multiplayer, and that's it. It lacks the Quake charm and soul in favor of emphasizing the gameplay mechanics. That makes sense if you're really into it for the competitive aspects, but I'm not, and it just didn't hold my interest for long. I was mainly excited to see the changes to the bot AI, and they're definitely tougher, but I also felt like I was playing through some kind of Quake III simulation, which is not far from the truth. Quake III is basically a multiplayer-focused game that borrows all of the core gameplay mechanics from previous id Software shooters: running, jumping, strafing, and fast-paced combat. Ultimately, I would recommend it if you enjoy all of that. People do still play this, and there's some great fun to be had here. It's hard not to compare Quake III to the original Unreal Tournament because they were competing with each other since they released around the same time. As much as I love id Software and their games, in this case I prefer Unreal Tournament and would recommend it over Quake III if I had to pick just one. But Quake III is still an excellent shooter, and they just don't make them like this anymore. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out the rest of our channel for more quality content and follow us at the links below.
If you're interested in gaming news, let's plays, live streams, and even podcasts, be sure to visit our friends over at GameCast.